Have you ever looked up at the night sky, at the countless points of light scattered across the infinite black, and felt a profound sense of being watched, not by a person or an animal, but by something much older, much quieter, and much, much larger? There is a theory, a quiet and deeply unsettling idea, that this feeling is not mere imagination. It is a hint of the truest state of our existence. This is the theory known as the zoo hypothesis, and it suggests that humanity and our entire world is a deliberately isolated cosmic preserve, a nursery, a garden, left to grow on its own, all while being silently, patiently, and constantly observed by unseen zookeepers. The foundation of this idea rests upon a great and troubling cosmic question, a question first posed in the middle of the last century, now known as the Fermi paradox. The question is simple: where is everybody? Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is immense, containing upwards of 400 billion stars, and our galaxy is just one of 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. The numbers are so vast, so far beyond our ability to comprehend, that a simple logic follows. Even if the emergence of life is an incredibly rare event, a miracle of divine chemistry, the sheer number of opportunities, the sheer number of worlds suggests that life should have arisen elsewhere. And if it has arisen elsewhere, the laws of time dictate that much of it should be far, far older than we are. Our Sun is a relatively young star. There are billions of stars in our galaxy that are billions of years older than our own. If life arose on a planet around one of those older stars, that civilization would have had a head start of not just thousands but millions, or even billions of years. Think of what humanity has accomplished in just the few thousand years of our recorded history. What would a civilization with a billion-year head start be capable of? Their technology would be indistinguishable from magic. Their understanding of the Creator's physical laws so complete as to appear godlike to us. Travelling between the stars, a feat we can only dream of, might be as trivial to them as crossing an ocean is to us. Our galaxy, in the billions of years of its existence, should have been thoroughly colonized or at least explored many times over. The heavens should be filled with the signs of their existence. Great engineering projects, radio signals, the wakes of their starships. Yet, when we look up, we see nothing. We listen, and we hear only a profound and unnerving silence. This great silence is the central mystery, and the zoo hypothesis offers a chillingly elegant solution. The reason we see no one and hear no one is because they do not want to be seen or heard. The silence is not an absence of life. It is a policy. The silence is deliberate. It is the sound of galactic zookeepers walking on tiptoe, so as not to disturb the creatures in the enclosure. Consider the motivations of such zookeepers. Are they benevolent? Perhaps they are protecting us. The galaxy could be a dangerous place, filled with cosmic hazards or predatory civilizations from which we are being shielded. Our solar system might be a celestial nursery, a safe harbor where a young sentient species can grow, protected by guardians we cannot see and do not understand. They may be waiting for us to reach a certain level of maturity, a point of technological or spiritual development, where we can be safely introduced into the larger galactic community without destroying ourselves or others. Or perhaps the motivation is not for our benefit, but for theirs. We could be the ultimate scientific experiment, a society allowed to evolve in a closed system so that its development can be studied. Our art, our music, our religions, our wars, our triumphs, and our failures could be the subject of academic papers in universities on worlds we cannot imagine. We might be the last truly wild civilization left in a galaxy that has otherwise been tamed, a precious and fascinating glimpse into the deep past of their own evolution. There is also a darker possibility. The zookeepers might not be protecting us from the galaxy, but protecting the galaxy from us. They may have observed our species, our history of violence, our tribalism, our capacity for destruction, and deemed us too volatile, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed out into the wider community. The walls of the zoo might not be for our protection, but for the protection of everyone else. We might be a quarantined species, isolated until we can prove we have overcome our most self-destructive tendencies. From a theological perspective, this hypothesis is deeply resonant. The idea of humanity being in a special observed state is a familiar one. Could these zookeepers be a physical manifestation of what we have tried to understand as angels, or watchers, or some other form of celestial agent, tasked by the Creator with overseeing his works? Perhaps this period of silent observation is a test, a divine trial to see if humanity, on its own, can find its way to unity, to peace and back to God, without the direct and overwhelming intervention of a higher power. The great silence might be a sign of God's faith in us, his belief that we can find the way on our own. The rare and fleeting sightings of unidentified flying objects, the UFOs that have been reported throughout our history, could also be recontextualized under this theory. They might not be invasions or clumsy attempts at contact. They could be the equivalent of a zookeeper accidentally dropping their keys in an enclosure, a glitch in the system, a brief unintended glimpse of the watchers, quickly corrected. They are the moments when the one-way mirror becomes, for just a moment, a two-way window, before the curtain is swiftly drawn again. The sheer elusiveness of the phenomenon is what one would expect if the observers were actively trying to avoid observation. Even under the full light of the midday sun, beneath a familiar blue sky over the quiet plains of the earth, the unsettling feeling of being in a place apart, a place under silent observation, can linger. The zoo hypothesis, in its elegant and terrifying simplicity, reframes our entire world. It suggests that the blue sky is not the ceiling of our home, but the ceiling of our enclosure. It proposes that the history of humanity has not been an independent saga, but a contained experiment, allowed to unfold only within the prescribed boundaries of an unseen cage. To truly contemplate this idea, we must ask ourselves how such a cosmic quarantine could possibly be maintained. The sheer scale of the undertaking is breathtaking, a testament to the kind of power a truly ancient Type 3 civilization might wield. The walls of our cosmic zoo would not be made of iron bars or concrete, but of forces and technologies far beyond our present understanding. Perhaps the barrier is a physical one. It is possible that, at the great distant edge of our solar system, beyond the orbit of Pluto, in the cold darkness of the Oort cloud, there are great, unseen structures, a network of silent, automated sentinels whose purpose is to create a form of gravitational or energetic fence. This fence could be designed to deflect any inbound vessel that does not have the correct authorization, or to gently nudge any of our own outbound probes, like the Voyager spacecraft, onto harmless trajectories, ensuring they never stumble upon anything that could disrupt the experiment. Another possibility is that the barrier is not one of physical force, but of information. In a galaxy that is likely teeming with communication, a galactic network of information exchange might exist, a form of cosmic internet. Our solar system could simply be firewalled from this network. Our radio silence would be a result of our isolation, our inability to access the great library of galactic knowledge. Any ship from an advanced civilization entering our region might have its navigation and communication systems automatically receive a warning, a do not enter sign posted on the celestial roadway. marking this system as a restricted zone. A third and perhaps most profound possibility is that the barrier is not technological at all, but social and ethical. It might be a universally agreed upon law, a sacred and binding treaty adhered to by all mature, advanced civilizations, a prime directive, a covenant of non-interference. They may have learned from their own histories, or from observing the fates of other developing worlds, that open contact with a primitive species is always catastrophic for that species. It shatters their culture, their religion, their self-identity, and floods them with technology they are not spiritually or ethically mature enough to handle. In this scenario, the silence is not enforced by a machine, but by a shared and ancient wisdom. It is an act of galactic morality. We can also explore different flavors, different variations of this core hypothesis. The first, which we have touched upon, is the benevolent wildlife preserve model. In this view, we are a rare and precious form of life, and the Watchers are cosmic conservationists, protecting us from harm, both from ourselves and from the wider galaxy, allowing us to grow in our own unique way. They are the gardeners, tending a special garden and protecting it from invasive species. A second, more unsettling variation is the laboratory model. This proposes a more active form of observation. We are not just being watched, we might be being prodded. The Watchers are not just observing our natural development, they are running an experiment. A third related idea is known as the Sentinel hypothesis. This suggests that the quarantine is not necessarily permanent. In this scenario, a powerful and ancient intelligence, perhaps the very first species to achieve interstellar travel, seeded the galaxy with automated probes. These sentinels were sent to star systems that showed the potential for life, and there they wait, silently observing for millions or even billions of years. The sentinel's purpose is to watch for the developing species to reach a critical threshold. Perhaps that threshold is the discovery of nuclear power, a test to see if we can handle great power without destroying ourselves. Perhaps it is the achievement of interstellar travel, or perhaps the test is the discovery of the Sentinel itself, hidden somewhere in our own solar system, on the moon, or in the asteroid belt, waiting to be found. Once we pass this test, the Sentinel would awaken from its long slumber and send a signal to its masters, a message that says they are ready, and at that point the quarantine would be lifted, and humanity would be invited to join the galactic community. This frames our existence not as a permanent zoo, but as a long and quiet childhood, with a graduation day waiting for us in the distant future. This idea of non-interference resonates deeply with the theological concept of free will. One of the greatest gifts from the Creator is our freedom to choose. Our spiritual journey, our moral development, our path to understanding must be our own for it to be authentic and meaningful. The sudden appearance of a vastly superior technological and spiritual power would overwhelm our free will. It would be like a scholar giving a student all the answers to a test. The student would pass, but they would not have learned anything. The Watcher's silence might be a reflection of this divine principle. They remain hidden so that we can be truly free, so that our triumphs and our failures are our own, and so that our eventual arrival at a higher state of being is earned, not given. Of course, the zoo hypothesis is not without its flaws. Its greatest weakness is the problem of uniformity. For the quarantine to work, it requires that every single advanced civilization, without exception for billions of years, is agreed to and has perfectly abided by the rule of non-interference. It requires a level of unanimity and discipline that is difficult to imagine. In all that time, across all those billions of stars, would there not be a single dissenting civilization that disagreed with the policy? Would there not be a single rogue ship a single pirate, a single curious explorer, or even a group of young joyriders who would decide to break the rules and pay a visit to the forbidden planet Earth. All it would take is one single, unambiguous, open contact to shatter the entire illusion. The great silence, for the zoo hypothesis to be true, must be a perfect and unbroken chorus of galactic consensus for an almost infinite amount of time. This leads to the final unsettling question at the heart of the hypothesis. If the zookeepers are benevolent, why do they allow us to suffer? Why do they watch us endure famine, disease, war, and hardship without offering a helping hand? A single ship full of medical technology could cure all our illnesses. A single textbook of their physics could solve our energy and climate crises. Their refusal to intervene, even in the face of our greatest suffering, implies either a level of scientific detachment that is coldly cruel, or a wisdom so profound that it understands that our struggles and hardships are a necessary and unavoidable part of our own growth, a fire through which we must pass to be truly forged. The silence of the zookeepers is either the silence of a detached scientist or the patient, heartbreaking silence of a parent watching their child fall, knowing that they must learn to get up on their own. Under the high sun of a new day, as light washes over the quiet plains of the earth, the world feels solid, known, and real. The shadows retreat, and the immense, unsettling questions born in the darkness of the night sky can seem distant, like a half-remembered dream. Yet, the feeling lingers. The zoo hypothesis, once considered, is not easily dismissed. It remains in the back of the mind, a quiet and persistent whisper that reframes everything we see, everything we know, everything we are. It suggests that our reality is a performance on a closed stage for an audience that has never and will never applaud. Let us consider for a moment the sheer breathtaking discipline required to maintain such a quarantine. It implies a level of unity and shared purpose among all advanced intelligences that is, perhaps, the most alien concept of all. For a civilization to achieve the technological mastery to cross the interstellar void, they must have overcome their own tendencies towards tribalism, conflict, and self-interest. To then join a galactic consensus, a covenant of silence and non-interference, and to uphold it for millions or even billions of years, suggests a level of spiritual and ethical maturity that is almost incomprehensible to us. The silence of the heavens, in this view, is not the silence of an empty void. It is the silence of a perfectly disciplined and unified community. It is the sound of a shared ancient wisdom. The greatest proof of their existence is that we have no proof of their existence. Their mastery of the art of concealment is the only clue they allow us to have. They have perfected the art of being invisible, of being silent, of being gods who choose never to show their faces or speak their names. And yet, this leads us to a new and perhaps even more profound question. What if this silence was not always so perfect? What if the policy of non-interference is a relatively new one? What if, in the deep and distant past, in the very infancy of human consciousness, the watchers did not just watch from afar? What if the zookeepers sometimes entered the enclosure? What if they walked among us, and we, in our primitive understanding, mistook them for gods? This is the foundation of a new and deeply compelling theory, an idea that takes the great silence of our current era and contrasts it with the thunderous noise of our ancient past. This is the ancient astronaut hypothesis. It proposes that the gods of antiquity, the angels who descended from the heavens, the great and powerful beings who are described in every ancient mythology and religious text on earth, were not supernatural spirits or allegorical metaphors. They were physical beings, beings of flesh and blood, beings of immense technological power, who came to our world from somewhere else. According to this theory, the Great Silence is a modern phenomenon. The ancient world, by contrast, was filled with the comings and goings of these celestial visitors. They were the teachers, the guides, the lawgivers, the great civilizers of early humanity, the stories that have been passed down for millennia, the stories that we now call myths and legends, are, in this view, the distorted, fragmented, and awe-struck eyewitness accounts of our ancestors trying to describe a technology so advanced it could only be interpreted as divine. For millennia, this has been interpreted as a mystical, symbolic vision of the glory of God. But the ancient astronaut theorist asks us to read it again, with new eyes. Is it a mystical vision, or is it a breathtakingly precise and technical description of a flying craft, a vehicle with multiple landing struts, with gleaming metallic surfaces, with rotating components, and perhaps even with occupants in strange suits? It is a description so strange, so mechanical, that it stands apart. It is the testimony of a man trying his best to describe a machine he has no words for, a technology that to his eyes could only be the chariot of God himself. This is not an isolated case. The ancient epic poems of India, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, are filled with detailed descriptions of flying craft called vimanas. These are not just fanciful flying carpets. The texts describe them as multi-story structures capable of flying in the atmosphere, into space, and even underwater. They speak of the powerful weapons these vimanas possessed, weapons that could level entire cities, and whose effects, as described in the texts, eerily similar to the effects of modern nuclear weapons. Are these just the products of a fertile poetic imagination, or are they the preserved memories of a time when great powerful ships sailed the skies of ancient Earth, and wars were fought with technologies we are only now beginning to rediscover? We can also look to the art that our most ancient ancestors left behind, carved onto the walls of temples and hidden deep within caves, are images that are profoundly unsettling to our modern understanding of the past. In Tessilian Asia, in the Sahara Desert, ancient cave paintings, thousands of years old, depict strange round-headed figures with large dark eyes, wearing what look for all the world like helmets and spacesuits. In Egypt, at the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, a series of hieroglyphs, when viewed in a certain way, appear to show the distinct shapes of a modern helicopter, a submarine, and a futuristic aircraft. Let us travel to the high, windswept plains of modern-day Bolivia, to a place called Pumapunku. At an altitude of 13,000 feet lie the ruins of a temple complex that defy all conventional explanation. The stones that litter this desolate landscape are not rough-hewn blocks. They are masterpieces of stonework, carved from diorite and andesite, two of the hardest types of stone on the planet, and they are carved with a precision that we would struggle to replicate today, even with our most advanced power tools. The cuts are perfectly straight, the surfaces are polished to a glass-like smoothness, and the interior corners are razor-sharp. Some of the stones have rows of small, perfectly uniform holes drilled into them, as if by a high-speed drill. The most famous of these are the H-blocks, great, monolithic stones carved into a complex shape with interlocking grooves, as if they were components of a vast prefabricated structure designed to be snapped together like a child's building blocks. The official story is that these stones were crafted by the Tiwanaku culture around 500 AD, using simple bronze and stone tools, that andesite is a volcanic rock of incredible hardness. To suggest that it could be carved with such flawless precision using primitive tools is not just unlikely, It is a profound technical impossibility. The ancient astronaut theorist proposes a much simpler though more startling explanation. The people of Pumapunku did not carve these stones, they were given them, or they were taught to use a technology of light or sound or vibration that could shape the hardest stone as if it were soft clay. The ruins of Pumapunku are not the ruins of a primitive temple. They are the scattered, broken pieces of a machine, a gateway or a structure built with a lost divine technology. We see the same impossible precision on the other side of the world, in Egypt, at the Giza Plateau. We are taught to look at the Great Pyramids as monumental tombs built by the brute force of thousands of slaves, but to look closer is to see a level of engineering genius that belies this simple story. The Great Pyramid of Khufu is not just a pile of stones, it is a geodetic marvel, aligned to true north with an accuracy of just 3/60ths of a degree, a level of precision we did not achieve again until the modern era of satellite navigation. Its dimensions encode profound mathematical constants, like p and the golden ratio phi, to an incredible degree of accuracy. Inside, the granite coffer in the king's chamber is cut from a single solid block of Aswan granite, a stone so hard it could only be quarried from a location hundreds of miles to the south. The blocks are so perfectly flat and so precisely placed that you cannot fit a razor blade between them. How did a Bronze Age culture, without the wheel, without iron tools, without modern mathematics, achieve such feats? How did they lift 70-ton blocks of granite 2/3 of the way up the structure and place them with millimeter precision? The theory suggests they had help. The pyramids were not just the work of human hands, but the work of human hands guided by the minds of the gods who came from the sky. In Baalbek, Lebanon, we find a foundation of stone blocks so massive that they dwarf even the stones of the pyramids. Beneath a later Roman temple lies a platform containing 3 colossal blocks of limestone known as the trilithon. Each of these 3 stones weighs approximately 800 tons. They are the largest building blocks used in any ancient structure on Earth. And in the nearby quarry lies a 4th, even larger stone, the stone of the pregnant woman, a single perfectly cut block weighing over 1,200 tons, the equivalent of nearly 1,000 cars. No known ancient technology could have possibly moved these stones. Our largest modern mobile cranes would struggle with such a weight. The mystery of how these blocks were quarried, transported a mile, and lifted into place on the foundation is a question for which modern engineering has no satisfactory answer. The legends of the region say that Baalbek was built by the giants, or by the gods, using a technology that could make the great stones float like they were weightless. Perhaps these legends are not legends at all, but a simple statement of fact. The evidence is not just in stone but in knowledge. In the deep traditions of the Dogon people of Mali, in West Africa, there is a profound astronomical mystery. For centuries, their entire cosmology has been centered around the star Sirius, but their traditions speak not just of Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, but of its tiny invisible companion star, Sirius B. This star is a white dwarf, a star so small and so faint, and so close to the glare of its bright partner, that it is completely impossible to see with the naked eye. It was not even discovered by modern Western astronomy until the year 1862, with the use of a powerful telescope. Yet, the Dogon knew of its existence. He knew it was small and heavy, and that it had an elliptical orbit around the main star that took 50 years to complete. They knew all of this for centuries before we did. When asked where this impossible knowledge came from, their answer is unwavering. It was given to them by the Nommo, great teachers, amphibious beings who came down from the sky in a great arc, or they say, originated from the Sirius star system. Is this just a fantastic myth, or is it the preserved memory of a real event, a real encounter with visitors, who gave this small, isolated tribe a piece of celestial knowledge as a sign of their power and their origin? You see similar impossible knowledge in ancient maps. The Piri Reis map, compiled by a Turkish admiral in the year 1513, shows the coasts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with remarkable accuracy. But most astonishingly, it appears to show the northern coast of Antarctica, not as it is today, buried under miles of ice, but as it was before it was frozen with rivers and mountains. The landmass of Antarctica has not been ice-free for millions of years. No human civilization could have possibly charted that coastline. The Admiral Piri Reis noted on the map that he had compiled it from much older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Could these source maps have been copies of even older documents, a legacy of knowledge from a lost high-tech civilization, a civilization with the ability to map the entire globe from the air, a civilization that existed long before our own recorded history, a civilization perhaps that was not originally from Earth at all? This theme of the gods as teachers is universal in ancient cultures. The Sumerian texts tell of the Apkallu, wise, amphibious beings, who came from the sea and gave humanity the gifts of civilization. The Egyptian god Thoth was the great teacher of writing and mathematics. The Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent who came from the sky, taught the people agriculture and astronomy. The pattern is the same, across continents and across millennia, a golden age in the deep past, where humanity lived and walked with powerful non-human beings who gave them the tools they needed to build the modern world. From a theological perspective, this does not need to contradict the ultimate sovereignty of the one true God. These visitors were not God. They were perhaps his agents. In the same way that God used prophets and angels to deliver his message, perhaps he used these powerful physical beings, these other children of his cosmic creation, to act as tutors for the young human race. Perhaps it was all part of the divine plan to uplift humanity, to give us the foundational knowledge of law, agriculture, and science that we would need to grow, to build, and to eventually reach a state of maturity where we could receive a more direct and spiritual revelation. They were not the source of the light, but perhaps they were the first lamplighters, sent by the Creator to chase away the darkness of our most primitive beginnings. As the sun stands high overhead in the southern sky, it illuminates a world we believe we know. It is a world of continents and oceans, of mountains and plains, a world that we have mapped, charted, and catalogued with meticulous scientific precision. We have sent our satellites into the heavens to look down upon it, and our submersibles into the deep to explore its darkest trenches. We feel a sense of ownership, of familiarity. But what if our maps are incomplete? What if the true geography of our world includes realms hidden from the light of our sun, secret kingdoms concealed right beneath our feet, and deep within the crushing pressures of our own oceans? The next great theory proposes that the visitors never left, that they are not, in fact, visitors at all, that they are here, now, hidden. For as long as we have been reporting strange objects in the sky, we have been reporting them in the sea. The phenomenon of the unidentified flying object, the UFO, as a lesser known, but perhaps even more mysterious aquatic cousin, the unidentified submerged object, or USO. These are reports from sailors, from fishermen, from naval officers, and from pilots, all telling the same incredible story. The story of strange lights and solid metallic craft moving at impossible speeds, not through the thin medium of the air, but through the dense, crushing medium of the water. Consider the physical challenge. Water is nearly 800 times denser than air at sea level. To move through it at the hundreds, or even thousands, of knots reported in these encounters would require a propulsion system that could overcome immense drag and a hull material that could withstand incredible pressures. Any conventional craft moving at such speeds would create a massive wake, a turbulent and noisy signature. Yet, these USOs are often reported to move with an eerie silence, slipping through the water as if it were not even there. They are often seen descending from the sky and plunging into the ocean without a splash, or ascending from the depths and shooting into the heavens in an instant. This transmedium capability, the ability to operate with equal mastery in the air, in the vacuum of space, and in the deep ocean, is a hallmark of the phenomenon. It suggests a technology so far beyond our own that it appears to be magic. It suggests a complete mastery over the forces of gravity and inertia. The great naval powers of the world have taken these reports seriously for decades, compiling vast files on these encounters, all of which remain deeply classified. The question is not whether these objects exist. The question is, where are they coming from? The simplest and most profound answer is that they are not coming from the distant stars. They are coming from a local base of operations. The theory of underwater bases proposes that our oceans, which cover more than 70% of our planet's surface, are the perfect hiding place for a non-human intelligence. The vast, unexplored abyssal plains and the deep, dark oceanic trenches are more alien and less mapped than the surface of the Moon or Mars. It is a world of eternal night, of crushing pressure, and of profound secrecy. What better place to build a hidden city, a secret outpost, in a realm that is fundamentally inaccessible to the prying eyes of the surface-dwelling human race? From these deep, silent bases, they could observe us with impunity. This theory, in its modern form, suggests that there are great openings at the north and south poles, allowing entry into this inner world. It proposes that the interior is warmed and lit by a small central sun, a miniature star suspended in the center of the Earth by the balanced forces of gravity. In this hidden world, a separate ancient civilization may have thrived for eons, protected from the cataclysms and climate changes that have swept the surface world. The most famous piece of evidence for this is the alleged secret diary of Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the famed polar explorer. According to this disputed account, during his flight over the North Pole in 1947, Byrd flew his plane into one of these great polar openings. He reported flying over vast green valleys, lush mountains, and seeing strange animals resembling mammoths. He was then, the story goes, escorted by flying craft of a type he had never seen, and brought to a great crystalline city where he met the leader of this inner Earth civilization. They were a peaceful, spiritually advanced people who warned him that humanity's use of nuclear weapons was a grave threat to the planet, and that they were watching us with great concern. Skeptics dismiss the diary as a hoax, a work of fiction, but the idea persists. It is a story that resonates with a deep, archetypal human feeling that there is more to our world than what we see on the surface, that there are hidden realms, secret gardens, places of wonder and power that are just beyond the veil of our perception. A more modern, and perhaps more scientifically plausible, version of this idea is the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. This theory is subtle and deeply unsettling. It proposes that the aliens are not from other planets at all. They are an ancient, non-human species that is native to the Earth. They have evolved alongside us, but in secret. They are the true native Earthlings, and we are the noisy, chaotic newcomers who have inherited the surface world. In this view, the classic alien appearance, the grey skin, the large black eyes, the frail bodies, and their high-tech flying saucer craft are not what they truly are. It is a disguise, a deliberate and brilliant deception, a form of psychological camouflage designed to misdirect our attention. By appearing as visitors from the stars, They encourage us to look up to the infinite void of space, a place so vast that the search for their home is effectively impossible. It prevents us from ever looking for them where they actually are, in the deep caves, in the unexplored mountains, under the sea, right here among us. This theory gains its true power when it is connected to the global, ancient and persistent folklore of the little people, the elves of the European forests, the jinn of the Arabian deserts, the fairies of the Celtic world, the goblins, the trolls, the nature spirits. Consider the similarities between the ancient folklore of fairy abductions and the modern accounts of alien abductions. Both stories speak of being taken against one's will by strange, non-human beings. This reframes the entire UFO phenomenon. It is not an alien visitation. It is a long-standing clandestine interaction with a cohabitant of our own planet, a species of immense age and subtle power who have, for their own mysterious reasons, chosen to remain hidden, revealing themselves only in fleeting, ambiguous, and often terrifying encounters. From a theological standpoint, these theories of a hidden kingdom on Earth are deeply resonant. The scriptures of many faiths speak of a world that is not just the physical material realm that we perceive with our five senses. They speak of an unseen world, populated by beings both good and evil, benevolent and malevolent. They speak of principalities and powers, of angels and demons, of beings that can influence our world from a parallel state of existence. Perhaps these modern technological theories are simply a new language for trying to describe these ancient spiritual truths. Could the jinn of Islamic lore, who are said to be made of smokeless fire, who live in hidden communities, and who possess great knowledge and power, be another name for the crypto-terrestrials? Could the idea of a hollow earth be a physical metaphor for another dimension, a different frequency of reality that coexists with our own, right here and now? The Creator's world may be far more complex and more layered than our modern materialistic worldview allows. The greatest mystery may not be what is coming from the stars, but what has been here all along, hidden in the shadows, dwelling in the deep places of the earth, a silent and ancient kingdom right alongside our own. Let us delve deeper into the long and consistent history of close encounters with these unknown craft, a history that speaks not just of fleeting lights, but of physical, tangible objects with demonstrable effects on their environment. Consider the famous incident at Falcon Lake, Canada, in the year 1967. An amateur geologist named Stefan Michalak was prospecting in the wilderness when he saw two glowing saucer-shaped objects descend from the sky. One landed nearby. He described a metallic, seamless craft, emanating heat and a strange sulphurous smell. When he reached out to touch its surface, it was so hot it melted the fingertips of his glove. As the craft suddenly took off, it expelled a blast of hot gas through a grid-like vent, setting his shirt on fire and leaving a pattern of burned grid marks on his chest and stomach. This was not a vague light in the sky. This was a physical encounter with a piece of machinery. The evidence was undeniable. The radioactive soil at the landing site, the strange burns on his body, his prolonged illness from radiation sickness. The object was real. It was technological, and it operated on principles of propulsion and energy that we do not understand. This case, and thousands like it, are the bedrock of the phenomenon. They are accounts of real physical hardware that seems to operate with impunity in our world. Consider also the Tehran UFO incident of 1976. This was not a civilian report, but a military encounter witnessed by trained pilots and tracked on military radar. Two Iranian Air Force F-4 Phantom jets were scrambled to intercept a brilliant flashing object over the capital city. As the first jet approached the object, all of its instrumentation and communication systems failed. The pilot was forced to return to base. The second F-4 jet then approached, and as the pilot prepared to fire a missile, his weapons control system went dead. A smaller object then detached from the main UFO and moved towards the F-4 at an incredible speed, forcing the pilot to take evasive action. This was not a passive observation. This was an encounter with an intelligence that was capable of engaging in a form of sophisticated electronic warfare, an intelligence that could disable our most advanced military hardware at will. This suggests a technology that is not just a few decades ahead of our own, but perhaps thousands or even millions of years more advanced. It is the signature of a power that is, for all intents and purposes, in complete control of any encounter it chooses to initiate. And these historical accounts are now being bolstered by modern declassified military evidence. The famous Tic Tac video, recorded by the US Navy off the coast of San Diego, shows an object that pilots described as performing impossible maneuvers. They outlined 5 key observables that define this phenomenon: anti-gravity lift, with no visible means of propulsion, sudden and extreme acceleration, hypersonic velocities without any sonic booms, low observability or cloaking, and most importantly, trans-medium travel. The pilots watched as this object, which had been effortlessly outmaneuvering their F-18 fighter jets, descended to the ocean and, in their words, moved under the water as easily as it moved through the air. This is the strongest link between the UFO and USO phenomena, a direct, modern, military confirmation that these craft operate in our oceans with the same impunity as they do in our skies. This brings us back to the great, deep places of the Earth. If we are to consider the Hollow Earth legends not as myth, but as a distorted memory, we must look at the esoteric traditions that surround them. The legends often speak of a great kingdom within the Earth, known as Agartha. Its capital city, sometimes called Shambhala, is described as a place of immense peace, wisdom, and spiritual power, a city of light that is a direct reflection of the heavenly city of God. The stories say that the inhabitants of Agartha are the descendants of a great ancient civilization that retreated into the earth to escape a cataclysm on the surface world. Perhaps the great flood described in so many global traditions. They are the keepers of a sacred knowledge and a powerful technology, and they remain hidden, waiting for the surface world to achieve a state of spiritual maturity before they reveal themselves. These ideas, while sounding fantastic, have been taken seriously by some. There are persistent, if controversial, theories that Nazi Germany, with its known interest in ancient myths and esoteric power, mounted a secret expedition to Antarctica to find an entrance to this inner world. The stories of a secret Nazi base known as Neuschwabenland, and of strange advanced circular aircraft developed in the final days of the war, have become intertwined with the Hollow Earth mythos, creating a dark and complex modern conspiracy. But perhaps the truth is even stranger, and even closer. The crypto-terrestrial hypothesis asks us to abandon the idea of them being human-like descendants of a lost civilization. It asks us to consider that they are not human at all, and never were. They are something else entirely, something ancient, native, and deeply alien to our own biology and psychology. The very appearance of the greys of modern UFO lore is not new. If you look at the descriptions of certain types of dwarfs or goblins from Germanic and Norse folklore, you find descriptions of small grey-skinned beings with large dark eyes. This leads to a final, and much darker, theological consideration. If there is an ancient, non-human intelligence sharing our planet, and if it has chosen to remain hidden, and if it interacts with us only through deception and disguise, then we must seriously question its motives. The scriptures warn us of the existence of deceitful spirits, of principalities and powers that are masters of illusion. of a great deceiver whose primary goal is to lead humanity away from the truth of God. Could the entire alien phenomenon be a form of this spiritual deception on a planetary scale? By appearing as beings from other stars, these entities achieve several goals at once. They hide their true nature and origin. They present themselves as powerful godlike creators, subtly challenging the unique relationship between God and humanity. And they create a modern technological mythology that can capture the imagination of a secular age, leading people to place their faith in saviors from the stars rather than in the one true creator. In this view, the phenomenon is not a scientific mystery, but a spiritual battle. The hidden kingdom is not just a physical place, but a spiritual state of being, and its inhabitants are not neutral observers, but active participants in a war for the soul of humanity. From the solid ground of our familiar world, we have looked for signs of a hidden kingdom, a secret civilization dwelling in the depths or the darkness, right alongside us. But what if the true nature of our reality is far grander, and the control far more subtle than a simple hidden presence? As the afternoon sun casts long shadows across the Argentinian plains, let us consider the possibility that our world is not just being watched, but is an integrated, if unknowing, part of a vast, unseen and ancient system, a system that governs not just a planet, but an entire galaxy. This is the foundation of the Galactic Federation hypothesis. It is an idea that takes the great silence from the zoo hypothesis and reinterprets it. The silence is not the sound of zookeepers being quiet. It is the sound of a well-ordered and stable society, a society that has established laws, treaties, and a code of conduct that governs the interactions between star-faring civilizations. It suggests that the galaxy is not a wild, untamed frontier, but is, in large part, an organized and ancient political entity. A federation, an empire, a council, a collective. The names are unimportant. The concept is what matters. This theory proposes that when civilizations reach a certain level of technological and spiritual maturity, they discover the means of interstellar travel, and in doing so they discover that they are not the first. They find a galaxy that is already populated, already organized with established territories, trade routes, and laws. The reason we have not been openly contacted is not because we are not yet ready. We are a pre-contact world, a planetary culture that has not yet achieved the unity, the wisdom or the technology to be formally invited onto the galactic stage. The policy of non-interference, in this view, is the most important law of the Federation. It is a prime directive, born from billions of years of experience. They may have learned, through tragic trial and error, that making open contact with a young, divided species like humanity is always a catastrophe. It shatters the developing culture's sense of identity. It creates cargo cults and religious chaos. It introduces technologies that a species, still struggling with tribalism and warfare, would inevitably turn upon itself with devastating consequences. The silence is not an act of neglect. It is an act of profound wisdom and responsible governance. The UFO phenomenon is then seen in a new light. The strange craft that flit through our skies are not the main body of the Federation. They are the exceptions to the rule. Perhaps they are the equivalent of scientific survey ships, quietly gathering data from a safe distance, just as we send probes to study the moons of Jupiter. Their mission is to observe but never to interfere, their fleeting appearances the result of occasional, unavoidable mistakes. This theory paints a picture of a galaxy that is not just full of life, but full of society, politics, and law. It suggests a level of order and history that is breathtaking to contemplate, and it places humanity in a very specific position. We are the uncontacted tribe, living on a protected island, while a vast, complex and ancient civilization bustles all around us, just beyond the horizon of our perception. From a theological standpoint, this idea fits beautifully with the concept of a layered and ordered creation. Just as the Creator has established hierarchies and systems of governance on Earth, families, communities, nations perhaps, he has done the same on a cosmic scale. A galactic federation would not be a replacement for God. It would be another level of his created order, a society of his older children, all living and moving within the grand framework of his universal laws. Their great wisdom and power would simply be a reflection of the immense age and experience he has granted them. But there is another theory of control, another possibility that is, in many ways even more profound and all-encompassing. It is an idea that has emerged not from strange sightings in the sky, but from the fields of philosophy and computer science. It suggests that the reason the universe appears so perfectly ordered, so governed by precise mathematical laws, is because it is. This is the simulation hypothesis. The logic is simple, yet deeply compelling. Consider the trajectory of our own technology, specifically our computing power. In just a few decades, we have gone from simple video games of bouncing dots to creating vast, photorealistic, simulated worlds populated by millions of artificially intelligent characters. All progress is exponential. It is not difficult to imagine a civilization 1,000 years, or 1,000,000 years, more advanced than our own. Their computing power would be effectively infinite by our standards. Such a civilization would likely be able to create what are called ancestor simulations. These would be incredibly detailed, high-fidelity simulations of their own past, their own history, run to study their development, to understand their origins, or perhaps simply for entertainment. They could create a simulated universe with its own simulated physics and populate it with simulated conscious beings, beings who would not and could not know that they were living inside a computer program. The core of the argument is a matter of statistics. If any civilization, anywhere in the history of the universe, ever reaches this technological stage, they are not likely to run just one simulation. They would run thousands, millions, billions. For every one base reality, there would then be billions of simulated realities. Therefore, the statistical probability is overwhelming that any given conscious mind, including your own, is not in the one original base reality, but is in one of the countless simulations. This theory offers a stunning explanation for many of the universe's deepest mysteries. The fine-tuning of the physical constants, the fact that the laws of physics seem so perfectly calibrated to allow for the existence of life, would be no mystery at all. The strange pixelated nature of reality at the smallest quantum level, the fact that things do not seem to be real until they are observed, is also eerily consistent with this idea. In a video game, the world is only rendered when a player is looking at it, to save on processing power. Perhaps our reality operates on a similar principle. The act of conscious observation is what tells the cosmic computer to render a specific outcome. Even the speed of light, the ultimate speed limit of the universe, can be seen in this context. It would simply be the processing speed of the cosmic computer, the rate at which the simulation can update the position of every particle in the system. From a theological perspective, the simulation hypothesis is not the atheistic idea it might first appear to be. In fact, it is perhaps the most direct, if technological, metaphor for the relationship between God and creation that has ever been conceived. It proposes the existence of a creator, a programmer, an intelligence that exists outside of our space and time, that established the laws of our reality, and that brought our entire universe into being with a deliberate act of will. The creator of the simulation is, for all intents and purposes, the God of our universe. The laws of physics are his lines of code. The Big Bang was the moment he pressed run. This does not diminish the sacredness of our existence. The love, the joy, the pain, the spiritual longing that we feel are all real parts of our programmed experience. Our free will is as real as the programmers allow it to be. It is a theory that, in its own strange digital way, points directly back to the idea of an intelligent, intentional, and all-powerful creator. Our lives and our entire universe may be a single thought in the mind of a being whose true nature is, and always will be, beyond the parameters of our own simulated world. The sun is high in the sky over the Argentinian plains, warming the solid earth beneath our feet. Everything feels real, tangible, and certain. The whisper of the wind, the cry of a distant bird, the feeling of the ground supporting you. These are the anchors of our reality. And yet, the theories we are now exploring ask a terrifying and profound question. What if it is all an illusion? Not just a watched illusion, but a controlled one. A grand design so complete and so subtle that we cannot perceive its boundaries. Because the boundaries are the very laws of physics that we use to measure our world. Let us first consider a darker alternative to the idea of a benevolent galactic federation. The great silence of the cosmos is a fact. The theory of a peaceful, law-abiding community is one interpretation of that silence, but there is another, far more chilling interpretation, an idea known as the dark forest hypothesis. It proposes that the silence is not the result of peace and wisdom, but of universal existential fear. Imagine the universe as a vast dark forest at night. It is filled with countless hunters, all armed, all silent, all moving with stealth. In this forest, survival is the only goal, and the cardinal rule of survival is to stay hidden. To make a sound, to light a fire, is to immediately reveal your position to every other hunter in the forest. And because you can never be certain of the intentions of the other hunters, are they friendly, or are they predators? The safest possible course of action is always to eliminate any other hunter you detect, before they have a chance to eliminate you. This is the logic of the dark forest. Every civilization is a hidden hunter. They remain silent, they conceal their existence, because to do otherwise is to invite their own annihilation. Any civilization foolish enough to announce its presence to the cosmos is like a child shouting in the woods at night, broadcasting its location to predators it cannot see and does not understand. The great silence in this view is the sound of a galaxy holding its breath. It is the silence of the hunt. And what of humanity? For the past century we have been the naive child shouting in the forest. Our radio broadcasts, our television signals, our radar sweeps have been leaking out from our planet at the speed of light, an expanding bubble of noise announcing our existence to anyone who might be listening. The dark forest theory suggests that this is an act of incredible, suicidal recklessness. It implies that the silence we hear is not because no one is out there, but because the ones who are wise enough to survive know that silence is the ultimate shield. It suggests that one day the silence might be broken by the arrival of a hunter that has heard our calls, and they will not be coming to talk. This chilling theory stands as a stark alternative to the more hopeful idea of a benevolent federation. It paints a picture of a universe operating on a purely ruthless survival of the fittest logic, a creation devoid of grace. From a theological perspective, it is a vision of a fallen cosmos, a universe where fear and not love is the guiding principle. It is a powerful reminder that while the Creator's design may be perfect, the choices made by his creatures, endowed with free will, can lead to states of immense darkness and peril. Now let us return to the even deeper, more fundamental theory of control, the idea that our reality is a simulation. If we are living within a created computational reality, then what would the evidence of this look like? Would there be clues, glitches in the code? Proponents of this theory believe that such clues are all around us, hidden in the strange, inexplicable phenomena of human experience. Consider the feeling of déjà vu, that strange fleeting moment when you feel with absolute certainty that you have lived this exact moment before. Is this just a trick of the brain's memory systems, or could it be a sign of the simulation lagging, of a subroutine being accidentally run twice, of a piece of code being reloaded? It could be the digital equivalent of a stutter in the program of reality. Think also of the stories of ghosts and paranormal events. Are these encounters with the spirits of the dead, or could they be something more akin to a graphical glitch, an old piece of character data that was not properly deleted from the system, leaving a residual, repeating echo in the environment? A phantom NPC walking its old programmed path, long after its primary code has been terminated. This leads to an even more unsettling idea, the concept of non-player characters, or NPCs. In a video game, the world is filled with characters controlled by the computer's AI to make the world feel populated and real for the actual players. If our reality is a simulation, is it possible that not every person you meet is a truly conscious being? Could some of them be highly sophisticated NPCs, part of the program, designed to play their roles, to provide dialogue, to act as background characters in the story of the real, conscious players? If we are in a simulation, what is its purpose? Is it a vast scientific experiment run by a future civilization to study their own past? Are we the subjects of a great historical research project? Or is it a form of entertainment, a grand, immersive game for beings in the real reality? Perhaps it is a form of prison, a digital purgatory for minds that have been sentenced to live out their days in a controlled environment. Or, from a more spiritual perspective, perhaps the simulation is a form of divine nursery, a place designed by the Creator to forge and test souls, a reality where our choices have real consequences, where we can learn and grow, but where the ultimate stakes are controlled and observed. In this view, death is simply the end of the simulation for our consciousness, a graduation, an exit from the training program, and an entry into the true base reality, the world that we might call heaven or the next life. These grand theories of control are not necessarily mutually exclusive. They can be layered, one within the other, to create a picture of a reality of almost unimaginable complexity. It is possible that the Galactic Federation is real, with its laws and its treaties, but that the entire Federation and the galaxy it governs is itself a part of a much larger simulation. The zookeepers of the zoo hypothesis could simply be the administrators of our particular server within that simulation, tasked with maintaining the parameters of our local experiment. The ultimate question these theories force upon us is the question of reality itself. They suggest that the solid, dependable world we perceive is not the final layer of existence. They propose that we are living within a grand design, a system of control so complete that it is indistinguishable from reality itself. This is a humbling, and for many, a terrifying thought, but it is also a thought that is deeply consistent with a universe created by an all-powerful intelligence. Whether you call that intelligence a programmer, a Federation Council, or God the Father, the underlying concept is the same, that our existence is not an accident, that our world is not a random collection of particles, that we are part of a system, a story, a design that is grander, more ancient and more mysterious than we can ever fully know from the inside. The strange silence from the stars and the strange order of our own world may both be clues that point to the same profound truth, that we are living in a created reality, a hidden kingdom under the silent, watchful eye of an intelligence beyond our comprehension. As midday shines on the earth, a time of clarity and revelation, we arrive at the final and most profound question of our journey. We have looked to the deep past, searching for the ghostly fingerprints of ancient visitors. We have looked into the hidden depths and shadows of our own world, contemplating a secret kingdom that may exist right alongside us. We have looked to the grand cosmic systems of control, the invisible fences of a galactic zoo, or the shimmering code of a simulated reality. Now we must look to the future. Where is this all leading? What is the ultimate purpose of the silence, the fleeting glimpses, and the enduring, unanswered mystery? Let us first consider the more hopeful of these two futures, the Great Revelation. This is the idea that the long period of non-interference, the Great Silence, is not a permanent state of being, but a preparatory phase. It is a childhood, and every childhood must, one day, come to an end. This theory proposes that humanity is on the verge of a cosmic graduation, a coming of age that will see us welcomed into a universe far grander and more populated than we have ever imagined. How might this revelation occur? Or perhaps it will be the fulfillment of the Sentinel hypothesis, the day we finally achieve a unified, peaceful world government, or the day one of our probes discovers the ancient waiting artifact left in our own solar system. A silent alarm will be tripped. The Watchers, the Guardians, the Zookeepers will finally receive the signal they've been waiting for eons, the message they are ready, and the great silent ships will descend from the heavens, not as invaders, but as welcoming elder siblings, ready to guide us into the next phase of our existence. Or perhaps the revelation will come from the Galactic Federation. They may have a set of criteria for new members, a series of technological and ethical hurdles that a young species must pass. We may be on the final test. The day we definitively end our wars, solve our ecological crises, and become true stewards of our God-given world, may be the day we receive the formal invitation. A single, stately ship, an ambassadorial vessel, will appear in our skies, and the long quarantine will be over. The aftermath of such a revelation, in any of its forms, would be the single greatest transformation in human history. It would be an end to our childhood diseases, our wars, our poverty, our tribal hatreds. The introduction of their knowledge, their science, their medicine, would cure our illnesses and solve our energy problems. But more profoundly, it would be a spiritual transformation. Our perspective would be permanently and beautifully altered. We would understand that we are not alone, that we are part of a vast and ancient family of life, a great cosmic community, all children of the same single ultimate creator. It would be the fulfillment of the divine plan, humanity finally taking its intended place in the magnificent, populated, and peaceful kingdom of God's creation. But there is another, much darker, and more cautionary path to consider for our future, a path that warns us to be wary of promises of salvation from the sky. This is the theory of the Great Deception. This idea proposes that the entire UFO and alien phenomenon is not what it appears to be, that it is a controlled, deliberately misleading narrative, a grand illusion being staged for a hidden and sinister purpose. In this view, the force behind the phenomenon is not a benevolent council of enlightened space brothers. It is a malevolent intelligence. Whether this intelligence is a hidden crypto-terrestrial species, a manipulative human cabal with access to secret, advanced technology, or a form of deceptive spiritual power, its goal is the same: to control humanity. The method for achieving this control is a long, patient, psychological operation. For decades, through fleeting sightings, strange abduction encounters, and the slow seeding of ideas into our culture, this force has been preparing us. It has been building a new mythology, a new belief system, centered around the idea of powerful, godlike aliens from the stars. The final act of this grand play would be a staged global event of such breathtaking scale that it would unite the entire world in awe and terror. This is the event sometimes referred to as a Project Bluebeam scenario, using a combination of advanced holographic technology, neurological interfaces, and sophisticated aerial craft. A powerful group could project immense realistic images into the sky. They could stage a fake alien invasion with fleets of ships and terrifying displays of power, designed to make humanity feel helpless and to beg for a savior. And then, that savior would be provided. A different group of benevolent aliens would arrive to defeat the invaders, or a single messianic figure would emerge with the power to stop the chaos. This staged event would shatter all existing political and religious structures. In the wake of this manufactured crisis, the peoples of the earth would gladly accept a new one-world government and a new one-world religion, based on the worship of these powerful technological saviors who saved us from the brink of destruction. The ultimate goal of this great deception would be to lead humanity away from the one true God. It would be the final and most powerful form of idolatry, the worship of a false god of technology and power. It would be a counterfeit salvation, a lie of cosmic proportions designed to enslave the human race not with chains, but with a sense of grateful devotion to its own deceivers. From a theological perspective, this is the ultimate act of the great deceiver, a final spiritual war for the soul of humanity, a test of faith that would require immense discernment to see through. And so we are left here, at the crossroads of our future. Two immense and opposing possibilities stand before us: the path of a great revelation, a hopeful and beautiful entry into a larger cosmic family, and the path of a great deception, a terrifying and cautionary tale of illusion and control. The future is not yet written. The final act of our story has not yet been played. The ultimate message of all these theories, from the silent watchers of the zoo to the gods in their fiery chariots, from the hidden kingdoms beneath our feet to the grand design of a simulated reality, is not to fill us with fear or to make us place our faith in conspiracies. The message is to awaken us to the profound mystery of our own existence. It is a call to be humble, to be discerning, and to be filled with a deep and abiding sense of wonder. The truth we should seek is not hidden in grainy photographs or in cryptic ancient texts. The ultimate truth was not written by visitors or programmers. It is written in the human heart, the innate, God-given longing for connection, for purpose, and for the Creator who made the heavens and the earth, and every strange and wonderful thing within them. The greatest secret is not that we are being watched, but that we are loved by the one who watches over all. In the bright and revealing light of a midday sun, the world can appear to be an open book. It seems to be run by the governments we see, by the leaders we elect, and by the laws they write in public. It is a system that, for all its flaws, operates in the light. It is a world of open secrets and public records. But the theory of the great cover-up suggests that this is all a carefully constructed facade, a stage play designed for the masses, while the real power, the real knowledge, and the most profound secret in human history is managed in the shadows by a hidden hand far beyond the reach of democracy or public oversight. This theory proposes that the question, "Are we alone?" was answered by our governments long ago, and the answer was a definitive, world-shattering no. This truth was deemed so disruptive, so dangerous to the fabric of our society, to our religions, our economies, and our very sense of self, that a decision was made at the highest levels of power. The decision was to hide it, to create a policy of absolute, total, and permanent secrecy. a policy that has been ruthlessly enforced for over 75 years. The genesis of this great cover-up, the single event that shattered the paradigm and forced the hand of those in power, is said to have occurred in the summer of 1947 in the desolate high desert of New Mexico. In early July, a strange debris field was discovered by a rancher named Mac Brazel, scattered over a huge area near the town of Roswell. The material was bizarre, unlike anything he had ever seen. There were thin metallic I-beams with strange purplish hieroglyphic-like symbols engraved on them. There were pieces of a foil-like material, as thin as paper, but so strong it could not be torn or even dented with a sledgehammer. When crumpled into a ball, it would unfold itself, leaving no creases behind. Initially, the local military at the Roswell Army Airfield did not know what to make of it. The base intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel, was sent to investigate. He too was baffled by the material. Believing it to be of extraterrestrial origin, the base commander authorized a press release, and on July 8, 1947, the Roswell Daily Record ran a stunning front-page headline: RAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. But the door to this new reality was slammed shut almost immediately. Within hours, the military changed its story. High-ranking generals flew in from Washington. The original press release was retracted, and a new one was issued. According to the theory, this was the beginning. The weather balloon story was the first great lie, and it was told because the truth was far more shocking than just a crashed disk. The story goes that there was a second crash site, and it was there that the military found not just the craft but its occupants. The bodies of several small, non-human beings with large heads, large dark eyes, and frail child-sized bodies were recovered and quickly flown to a secure military base for study. The local undertaker was allegedly called by the base, asking for several hermetically sealed, child-sized caskets. This event was so profound, so far beyond the context of conventional human history, that it required a new level of secrecy. The theory states that President Truman, upon being briefed, authorized the creation of a secret committee, a group that would operate outside of all normal government and military channels, to manage the alien reality. This group has come to be known as Majestic 12, or MJ-12. According to a series of controversial, allegedly leaked documents, MJ-12 was composed of a dozen of the highest-ranking military leaders, intelligence officials, and scientists in the United States. Their task was twofold. As the years went on, the cover-up deepened into something far more complex than just simple secrecy. A darker and more disturbing theory suggests that the relationship with the visitors evolved from one of study to one of active and secret collaboration. This is the story of a secret treaty, a Faustian bargain made between this shadow government and at least one race of the visitors. The most famous version of this story is the alleged Greeter Treaty. The legend states that in 1954, President Eisenhower was taken to Holloman Air Force Base, where a secret meeting was held with representatives of a species of grey-skinned, large-eyed beings. A treaty was signed. The terms were staggering. The visitors would provide the United States with highly advanced technology, the secrets of anti-gravity, of new energy sources, of materials science. In exchange, the United States government would agree to look the other way, to allow these beings to abduct a limited number of human beings for the purpose of an ongoing genetic study, the details of which were not fully disclosed. And to enforce the silence, to ensure the cover-up held, a new and deeply strange phenomenon was said to have emerged: the Men in Black. Witnesses to UFO events, especially those who had physical evidence, would soon after be visited by strange, unsettling men. They would arrive in pristine, vintage black cars, like a Cadillac from the 1950s. They would be dressed in immaculate black suits, but their appearance would be off, not quite human. They were described as having pale, waxy skin, no facial hair or eyebrows, and large, dark eyes often hidden behind sunglasses. They would speak in a strange, monotonous, and sometimes threatening tone. They would often know impossibly detailed things about the witness's life, and their message was always the same. You did not see what you saw. You do not have the evidence you think you have. It is in your best interest to forget this ever happened. They were the enforcers of the silence, the mysterious and terrifying agents of the great cover-up. Whether they were government agents from a truly secret agency, or whether they were the visitors themselves in a clumsy and unsettling human disguise, their purpose was clear: to ensure that the greatest secret in the world remained a secret. From a theological perspective, the story of the Great Cover-Up is a deeply resonant, if tragic one. It is a story of humanity encountering a profound and potentially divine revelation, the knowledge that we are not alone in God's vast creation, and choosing not to share it, but to hoard it. It is a story of a small group of powerful men who, faced with a truth that could have united the world in wonder and awe, instead chose to use it as a tool for military power and technological advantage. It is a modern-day story of the Tower of Babel, an attempt by a human elite to seize the knowledge of the heavens for their own glory. The great secret is not just that we are not alone. The great secret is that for over 75 years we have been lied to. The afternoon sun reveals the surface of the world, but the deepest secrets are kept underground, far from the revealing light of day. The theory of the great cover-up is not just a story of secret files and whispered threats told by old men. If it is true, it is a story of a vast hidden infrastructure, a secret world built with unimaginable resources, right beneath the feet of an unsuspecting global population. A conspiracy of this magnitude would require a level of funding and scientific development that exists completely outside of our public reality. It is this immense secret funding that is said to have paid for the creation of a secret space program. While the public is shown the admirable, but often slow and underfunded, efforts of NASA, the theory suggests this is merely a distraction, a public-facing, feel-good program designed to keep the world looking at conventional rockets and robotic rovers. The real action, the real space program, is happening in the deep black. This secret program, using technology reverse-engineered from recovered extraterrestrial craft like the one at Roswell, is said to have mastered anti-gravity propulsion decades ago. It has allegedly developed a fleet of silent, triangular aerospace craft, like the rumored TR-3B Astra, that can move from sea level to orbit in an instant, and then to the moon or Mars in a matter of hours. This breakaway civilization, the theory goes, has already established permanent secret bases on the moon and on Mars, and it operates with a freedom and a power that makes the public space program look like a child's toy. And where is this incredible technology developed and housed? And not in the visible research centers and military bases that we know of. It is housed in a global network of deep underground military bases, or DEM bins. These are vast multi-level cities, buried deep within the Earth's crust, connected by high-speed maglev train systems that crisscross the continent in total secrecy. The most famous of these is Area 51, the Groom Lake facility in the Nevada desert. For decades, it was a place the government refused to even acknowledge existed. It is the heart of the mythology, the place where the Roswell craft and its occupants were allegedly taken for study. The testimony of alleged former employees, like the physicist Bob Lazar, painted a picture of a place where human scientists were actively working to understand and replicate the propulsion systems of alien craft. a place where the laws of our known physics were being broken every single day. But the legends of Area 51 are tame compared to the dark rumors that surround another, even more secret facility, said to be located beneath Archuleta Mesa in Dulce, New Mexico. The story of the Dulce base is a tale of a collaboration that went horribly wrong. According to the late Phil Schneider, a geologist and engineer who claimed to have worked on building these underground bases, he was involved in a terrible incident in 1979. He alleged that during the excavation of a new level of the base, the human engineering team accidentally broke into a pre-existing cavern system that was inhabited by a hostile race of grey aliens. A firefight ensued, a desperate battle fought with advanced energy weapons miles beneath the surface of the Earth. Schneider claimed to be one of only a handful of human survivors of the incident. He and others have alleged that the Dulce base was a joint human-alien facility, the headquarters of the Greater Treaty, where the most horrific genetic experiments were being conducted on abducted humans, a nightmare of a science fiction horror story made real. The human cost of maintaining a secret of this magnitude is, the theory suggests, immense. Men like Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Minister of National Defence, who in his later years spoke openly and repeatedly about his belief, based on his access to high-level intelligence, that multiple extraterrestrial species were visiting Earth, and that a shadow government, primarily in the United States, was hiding this truth. These are not the testimonies of anonymous people on the internet. These are the words of men who have held the highest security clearances, who have seen the classified documents, and who, in their old age, have decided that their conscience no longer allows them to remain silent. The cover-up is not just maintained by physical force and intimidation, it is maintained by a sophisticated and relentless campaign of psychological warfare. The theory proposes that intelligence agencies have, for decades, actively worked to control the public narrative around UFOs. They have infiltrated civilian research groups, planting disinformation to lead them down false paths. They have promoted the most outlandish and easily debunked stories in order to discredit the entire field by association. The most effective tool in this campaign has been ridicule. Through a careful and deliberate cultural conditioning, the subject of UFOs and alien visitation has been made into a joke. The little green men and the tinfoil hat have become powerful symbols of derision. It has created a climate where serious discussion of the topic by serious people in politics, in academia, or in mainstream journalism is almost impossible. A politician who speaks openly about UFOs risks their career. A scientist who studies it risks their reputation and their funding. This wall of ridicule is the most powerful and effective part of the entire cover-up. It is a cage for our minds, a self-enforcing system of censorship where we have been taught to laugh at the very people who might be trying to tell us the truth. From a theological perspective, a lie of this magnitude is a spiritual crime of the highest order. It is a lie that denies humanity its true context in the universe. It robs us of a profound and potentially faith-affirming truth about the sheer scale and diversity of God's creation. By hiding the existence of other intelligent beings, the shadow government, in this view, has sought to maintain a false human-centric cosmology, a universe where we are the pinnacle and the sole focus of creation. The early afternoon light bathes the world in a sense of normalcy. Life goes on, work is done, the sky is blue and seemingly empty. Yet, if the great cover-up is a reality, then this normalcy is a carefully managed illusion, a grand and beautiful stage play designed to keep us calm, productive and unaware. A secret of this magnitude, held for 3/4 of a century, cannot be perfectly contained. It is too vast, too explosive. It must have consequences. It must leak out at the seams, not in a flood of truth, but in a slow, steady, and almost invisible trickle of strange technologies and unsettling events that subtly shape the world we think we know. Consider the technological revolution that has occurred since the late 1940s. The world has been utterly transformed by the invention of the transistor, the integrated circuit, fiber optics, lasers, Kevlar, and countless other materials and technologies that seem to have appeared almost out of nowhere. The official story is that these were the products of brilliant human minds working in corporate and university laboratories. But the cover-up theory proposes a different, more clandestine origin story. It suggests that our modern world was built on the back of a crashed alien spaceship. This is the theory of controlled technological leakage. It proposes that the shadow government, the Majestic 12 Committee, in their study of the recovered Roswell craft and others, began to understand the principles of the alien technology. But this knowledge was a double-edged sword. The method would be to pass pieces of the reverse-engineered technology to select trusted defense corporations. These corporations would then invent the technologies in their own labs, patent them, and release them to the world. The integrated circuit that powers your computer and your phone, the fiber optic cables that carry this very message, the stealth technology that makes our military aircraft invisible to radar. All of these, the theory suggests, were not human inventions, but human imitations of a science given to us by the visitors, whether that gift was intentional or accidental. It was a way to accelerate human progress, to prepare us technologically for a future that they knew was coming, all while maintaining the core secret of the technology's true origin. But the leaks from this secret world are not all technological and beneficial. There is a darker and more disturbing phenomenon that runs in parallel to the UFO sightings, a phenomenon that suggests a terrible price was paid for this secret knowledge. This is the mystery of cattle mutilations. For decades, ranchers across the world, particularly in North and South America, have been finding their livestock dead under the most bizarre and unsettling of circumstances. The animal is often found in a field with no tracks around it, as if it were dropped from the sky. There is no sign of a struggle. The carcass has been completely and expertly drained of all blood, yet there is no blood on the ground, and most unnervingly specific organs, often the eyes, the tongue, the reproductive organs, and the rectum, have been removed with a surgical, almost bloodless precision through cuts that appear to have been made with a high-heat, laser-like instrument. These are not the work of natural predators. They are the hallmarks of a precise, clinical, and deeply strange procedure. What is the connection to the great cover-up? The theory of the secret treaty provides a chilling answer. If the shadow government made a bargain with a non-human intelligence, a deal that allowed for the abduction of humans for genetic study, perhaps it also included the allowance of this kind of biological sampling of our planet's fauna. These mutilations could be the ongoing work of the visitors, a necessary part of their long-term study of Earth's biology, a quiet and terrible tax that we are forced to pay as part of the treaty. An even darker possibility is that this is not the work of the visitors, but of the shadow government itself. The silent, unmarked helicopters, often reported in the vicinity of these events, could belong to a human black ops program. The very documents that describe the existence of the cover-up, like the majestic 12 papers, are themselves part of this complex game of shadows. Are they a genuine leak, a brave attempt by an insider to expose the truth, or are they a brilliant piece of disinformation, created and leaked by the intelligence agencies themselves? The best way to hide a real secret is to surround it with a cloud of confusing, contradictory, and easily debunked lies. By creating and disseminating false documents, by promoting the most outlandish and unbelievable stories, and by secretly encouraging the most unstable and theatrical figures in the UFO community, The shadow government can ensure that the entire subject remains a toxic and chaotic mess. They can muddy the waters to such a degree that if the real truth, a real document, or a real witness were to ever emerge, they would be immediately lost in the noise, dismissed as just another part of the crazy fringe. The cover-up, in its most sophisticated form, is not just about hiding the truth. It is about actively manufacturing a counterfeit reality, a prison of belief where the truth is not just hidden, but has been made impossible to find. From a theological perspective, a lie of this magnitude is a profound spiritual offense. The Creator's universe is, at its most fundamental level, an expression of truth and reality. To create a system of lies that deliberately hides the true nature of that reality from an entire species is an act of supreme arrogance. It is an attempt to create a man-made fallen reality, a carefully constructed prison of ignorance. In this view, the shadow government has set itself up as a false god, making the decision about what humanity is and is not ready to know a prerogative that belongs to the Creator alone. The persistent desire of whistleblowers to speak out, the tireless work of researchers to uncover the secret, can be seen as a deeply spiritual quest. It is a quest to break down the walls of this man-made prison of lies. It is a fight to bring the truth, whatever that truth may be, into the light of day, where it can be seen by all. It is a struggle against the very principalities and powers of deception, a battle fought not with weapons, but with the simple, divine and unyielding power of the truth itself. As the afternoon light begins to soften over the plains, the world is cast in long shadows. It is a time of transition, a bridge between the clarity of day and the mystery of night. And it is in this twilight that we arrive at the final, most profound question. We have explored the possibility of silent watchers, of ancient teachers, of hidden kingdoms, and of a grand secret cover-up. If any of these theories hold a grain of truth, they all point to an unavoidable conclusion. The current state of affairs, the delicate and deceptive balance between the known and the unknown, cannot last forever. A secret of this magnitude is not a stable thing. It is an immense weight, a pressure that builds over time, and eventually it must find a release. The final great theory is not about what is or what has been, but about what is to come. It is about the two great opposing paths that lie at the end of this long and shadowy road, the path of a great revelation and the path of a great deception. Let us first walk the path of hope. The path of revelation. This is the belief that the long quarantine, the great cover-up, the great silence, is not a permanent prison, but a temporary nursery, and that humanity is approaching a day of graduation. It is the idea that the truth, in all its world-shattering glory, will finally be revealed to us. But how might such a revelation unfold? It is unlikely to be a simple, clean announcement. It would be the most transformative and potentially the most dangerous moment in all of human history. One possibility is that of a controlled disclosure. In this scenario, the shadow government, the majestic 12 committee or whatever its modern equivalent may be, finally decides that the time is right. Perhaps our own technology has advanced to a point where the gap is no longer impossibly wide. Perhaps our global society has reached a level of interconnectedness where the secret is no longer possible to keep. Or perhaps they receive a directive from the visitors themselves, a message that says the time has come. The second, more dramatic possibility is that of an uncontrolled disclosure. This is a scenario where the choice is taken out of the hands of the secret keepers. It could be triggered by a massive, undeniable leak from a whistleblower with access to the deepest, darkest files. Someone who provides the world with the irrefutable smoking gun evidence of the reality. Or, more likely, it could be triggered by an event so public, so undeniable, that no amount of ridicule or disinformation could ever cover it up. Imagine a single great silent vessel miles across, appearing not in a desolate desert, but over the heart of one of our major cities, an object that hangs there, silently for all the world to see, for every camera and every cell phone to record, an event that could not be dismissed as a weather balloon or swamp gas, a moment of undeniable, global, open contact. This would force the truth out into the open in an instant, a sudden and brilliant flash of revelation that would change the world in a single afternoon. The aftermath of such a revelation, whether controlled or uncontrolled, would be a new genesis for the human race. It would be the end of our history and the beginning of a new one. The technologies once revealed would transform our world. New sources of energy would end our reliance on fossil fuels. New methods of propulsion would open up the solar system to us. New medical knowledge could cure our most devastating diseases. The material benefits would be immense, but the spiritual and psychological impact would be even greater. The revelation would be a profound test of our maturity. It would shatter our old tribalisms. One possibility is that they are the benevolent elders, the silent watchers of the zoo hypothesis, the wise and ancient members of the Galactic Federation. They would be a civilization perhaps millions or even billions of years older than our own. Their relationship with us would be that of a patient and knowing grandparent to a young, chaotic and brilliant child. Their science would be so advanced that they would have conquered disease, scarcity, and perhaps even the limitations of biological aging itself, achieving lifespans of immense length. They would have witnessed the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy. This immense deep time perspective would have forged in them a profound wisdom, a deep understanding of the universal principles of compassion, unity and cooperation that are necessary for any species to survive its own technological infancy. They would look upon our wars, our divisions and our self-destructive tendencies, not with judgment, but with a kind of sad understanding, for they would have passed through their own fiery trials in their deep and distant past. Another, even more profound possibility is that they are our literal ancestors. They are the great Sours, the ancient civilization that practiced directed panspermia and seeded our world with the first spark of life, billions of years ago. The revelation would not just be that we are not alone, but that our very biology is of extraterrestrial origin. Their arrival would be a homecoming, a return of the gardeners to see how their garden has grown. Imagine the moment of this encounter. They might show us images of their own world, of their own evolution. They might show us the great starships that carried the seeds of life across the void. They might even show us our own DNA, pointing to the hidden signature, the maker's mark that they left within our genetic code so long ago. It would be a moment of absolute, world-altering truth. The great mystery of the origin of life would be solved, and the answer would be that it came from the stars. Their relationship with us would be that of a creator to its creation. They would feel a sense of profound responsibility for us, a parental connection to the beautiful, chaotic, and magnificent life that has blossomed from the seeds they planted. Their purpose would be to nurture their creation, to help us understand our own origins, and to guide us to the next stage of our development. It would be the ultimate revelation, a story that affirms our connection to the cosmos in the most direct and biological way possible. There is a third, more melancholy and perhaps more complex possibility. The visitors may not be ancient, godlike superbeings. They could be survivors, refugees, the last remnants of a civilization that has suffered a great and terrible catastrophe. Perhaps their own star went supernova. Perhaps their world was destroyed in a great galactic war, a war that the dark forest hypothesis so grimly predicts. Perhaps they are fleeing a danger that is even now moving through the galaxy. a danger that we are not yet aware of. They would have journeyed for thousands of years in great multi-generational world ships, looking for a safe harbor, a new home. They may have been watching us for centuries, debating whether or not to make contact. They would be a people of great sadness and great resilience. They would possess a technology far in advance of our own, yet they would be humbled by the loss of their home. Their purpose in revealing themselves would be one of mutual survival. They might offer us their advanced knowledge in exchange for a place to live, a new beginning. They would not be gods, but fellow travelers, fellow children of the same cosmos, who have suffered a great tragedy and who now come to us, not as superiors, but as equals, asking for our help and our compassion. This scenario would be the ultimate test of our own maturity, a test of our ability to show kindness and charity to the stranger, to the refugee, to our brother from another star. In all of these hopeful scenarios, the revelation is a moment of profound transformation. It is the end of humanity's isolation. It is the beginning of a new partnership, a new purpose, and a new understanding of our place in a universe that is not empty and silent, but is filled with life, history, and a boundless creative impulse. The afternoon sun casts long, clear shadows. At every object bathed in the light of our understanding, there is a corresponding darkness of the unknown. We have explored the hopeful path, the dream of a great and benevolent revelation that will lift humanity into a new era of peace and wisdom. But a complete and honest exploration requires us to consider the other path, a path that suggests that if the heavens finally do speak to us in a clear and open voice, their words may not be of truth, but of a masterfully crafted and utterly convincing deception. This is the theory of the Great Deception. It is a deeply unsettling idea, one that takes the entire UFO phenomenon, the fleeting sightings, the strange encounters, and the official secrecy, and reframes it not as a prelude to a wonderful revelation, but as the careful and patient setting of a global stage. It suggests that we are the audience for a grand play, a piece of psychological theatre, whose final act is designed to fundamentally and permanently reshape human society, and to seize control of our destiny. The core of this theory is the idea that a powerful hidden group, whether human or non-human, possesses a level of technology that is not just advanced, but reality-bending. A technology that can manipulate our perceptions on a global scale to create an event so profound and so overwhelming that it would shatter our existing world order and leave humanity desperate for a savior. And in that moment of desperation, a savior would be provided. Imagine the mechanics of such a deception. The theory known as Project Bluebeam speculates on a four-step process. The first step would be the breakdown of our current understanding, the erosion of our established beliefs through manufactured crises and archaeological discoveries that rewrite our history. The second step would be a spectacular global light show. A network of secret satellites, the theory suggests, could project vast three-dimensional holographic images into the upper atmosphere. These images, combined with low-frequency sound waves, could create the illusion of fleets of starships, of great celestial beings, or of religious figures, appearing in the skies over every major city on Earth simultaneously. The third step would be a form of telepathic communication, using advanced technologies that can project sound and even thoughts directly into the human mind. This controlling group could make it seem as if a great, divine or alien intelligence was speaking to the entire world inside our own heads. The message would be one of unity, but it would be a unity born of a shared manufactured experience. The final step would be the manifestation itself, the staging of a great global event. The most commonly theorized scenario is a fake alien invasion. The holographic fleets in the sky would appear hostile. Manufactured acts of destruction would create a state of worldwide terror. Humanity, in its fear, would be united against a common enemy. And then, at the moment of our darkest hour, a second group of benevolent aliens, or a single powerful messianic figure, would appear. They would defeat the invaders in a spectacular display of power, saving humanity from the brink of annihilation. In the wake of this staged salvation, a grateful and terrified world would be ready to accept anything. The old nations would seem powerless and obsolete. The old religions would be superseded by the direct experience of these new technological gods. A new world order, led by these saviors, would be proposed and gladly accepted. A new one world, technological religion would be established, based on the worship of the beings who saved us. It would be the final and most complete form of control, a global government and a global belief system, born from a single perfectly executed lie. The question then becomes, who would be behind such a monumental deception? One version of the theory is that it is a purely human endeavor, a secret global elite, the shadow government we explored earlier, decides to finally play its trump card. Using the reverse-engineered technology they have been hiding for nearly a century, they stage the event to dissolve all national sovereignty and to establish themselves as the undisputed rulers of a new unified planet. It would be the ultimate consolidation of power, the final move in a game of global chess that has been played in the shadows for generations. The other, more profound possibility is that the architects of this deception are not human at all, that they are the very beings we have been encountering all along. The crypto-terrestrials, the hidden intelligence, reveal themselves, but in a completely dishonest way. Their goal would not be to destroy humanity with weapons, but to conquer us from within, to enslave our minds and our souls without ever firing a shot. By presenting themselves as our creators or our saviors, they would achieve a form of worship, a level of willing devotion that would guarantee their control for all time. This path presents a deep and cautionary lesson. It is a warning about the nature of truth and illusion. In an age where technology is becoming increasingly powerful, how could we ever be certain that what we are seeing is real? It is a warning against the seductive allure of placing our faith in power and spectacle. It suggests that the true markers of a higher, more enlightened consciousness are not displays of technological might, but the quiet virtues of compassion, wisdom, and truth. The theory forces us to ask a difficult question. If we were offered a perfect world, a world without war or disease, but the price was to believe a lie and to worship a false god, would we accept the bargain? This is the dark and unsettling crossroads that the path of deception presents to our future. It is the final and most profound test of the human spirit. The two great paths stretch before us into the unknown future. The first is a hopeful one, a great revelation, a moment of transcendent contact that will elevate humanity and welcome us into a magnificent cosmic family. The second is a dark and cautionary one, a great deception, a final test of our wisdom and our ability to see the truth behind a perfect illusion. Which of these paths is our destiny? We do not know. Perhaps neither. But the true power of these theories lies not in their ability to predict the future. Their value is in what they reveal about our present. They are a mirror, reflecting the deepest anxieties and the most profound hopes of the human heart. They are the stories we tell ourselves when we are faced with a great and enduring silence from the cosmos. They are the shape of our own wonder, the architecture of our own fears. These ideas reveal our innate, unshakable feeling that we are not alone in the universe. It is a feeling that has persisted across every culture and every era of human history, a deep, primal intuition that our world is just one small lighted room in a house of infinite chambers. They speak of our profound desire for meaning, our need to believe that our existence is not a random accident in a meaningless void, but a part of a larger, unfolding story, a grand design of incredible and mysterious purpose. The theories themselves, in all their intricate and sometimes paranoid detail, are a testament to the boundless creativity of the human mind. The ability to look at a faint, tumbling point of light in the sky and weave from it a story of a derelict alien sail. The ability to look at a strange carving on an ancient temple wall and see the echo of a visiting god. The ability to look at the silent, empty sky and construct from it a theory of a perfect hidden zoo. This is the same creative impulse that gives us art and music and poetry. It is the spirit of wonder, the engine of our search for truth. The ultimate question these theories leave us with is not about what is hidden in the sky, but about the nature of truth itself in a world of increasing illusion. The path forward is not to be found in decoding every strange light or every cryptic text. It is an inward journey, the ability to tell the difference between a true revelation and a false one, between a benevolent guide and a masterful deceiver, will not come from analyzing technology, but from cultivating wisdom. It will come from strengthening our own capacity for compassion, for discernment, and for a quiet, humble, and peaceful sense of our own place in the vast and intricate tapestry of creation. The two possibilities remain, suspended in the mists of our future. One promises a glorious entry into a universe of wonders. The other warns of a prison of belief, built with perfect illusions. Both are born from the same enduring mystery, the same profound silence from the heavens. And so we are left to wonder, as we look up at the sky, is that silence the loving patience of a guardian, waiting for us to mature, or is it the quiet, careful, and calculating silence of a hunter, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself?